rose ceremony, the fantasy suites, holy matrimony. Oh, won't you please take this rose? Hey, everybody, and welcome to Buns and Roses, my Bachelor recap podcast. I am Snacks the Bunny, and we are here to break down week 7 of the Matt James season of The Bachelor. I mean, this is pretty exciting. Are you guys excited to break down this episode?
Yes.
So excited.
Oh my gosh. Well, first I'm going to introduce my beautiful guests. We're going to start with Andrew Walsh. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Snacks. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's so wonderful to have you. Andrew is a co-host of the podcast Too Beautiful to Live, as well as After These Messages with Genevieve. Wave hi, Genevieve. And Spotless, a podcast about cleaning, life, and relationships. I am such a fan of all of Andrew's podcasts. I mean, sometimes I feel like I've heard your voice more than most other voices in my life. How do you feel about that?
I feel great about it. It's a little intimidating, but I'm glad you enjoy the shows. I'm flattered. And of course, you know what we say. We try to make our podcast for every bunny. So you're any bunny.
Oh my God, thank you so much. And you know what? I just hope that I'm able to keep up the caliber of podcasting that you guys are used to in the After These Messages verse and the Spotless verse and the TBTL verse.
You are being judged right here, but you can tell from my opening salvo of a joke that I've lowered the bar considerably. I think you can hop over it.
Yeah, I always feel, very catered to when people lower the bar in preparation to anything with me. I just feel like that's a nice thing to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm here for you.
Thanks. Well, that's Andrew. And next we're going to meet Genevieve. Wave hi, Genevieve.
Hello.
Genevieve, her day job is a speechwriter. And then After Dark, ooh, sexy, she is the co-host of After These Messages with Andrew, a podcast about TV commercials. She is the partner of Andrew. Oh my God. I mean, we're just blowing this wide open. We're just showing everyone the backstage. You guys are partners. You guys are in 2 separate rooms of the same apartment right now. Is that right?
We are. It's not. It's not a signifier of anything. It doesn't betoken any kind of rift. We're just trying to, exhibit the normal professionalism of audio and video casting that you come to expect on Buns and Roses.
Exactly. And I always admire couples that don't have to share a box, It's very codependent when you have to be in the same box.
It's like having the same, it's like the Andrew and Genevieve at Gmail address.
Oh my God. I knew a couple that shared a Facebook page and I thought that was really weird. Okay. And then finally we have Nicki Mac. What up, Nicki?
What up? I was just trying that.
I like it.
Never mind. That's not me. Hello.
Nicki Mac, known as Bladen when she's on her rollerblades, is a musician and voice actor notorious for pranking her friends as her alter ego, Tim. I haven't really gotten any messages from Tim, and I would like, maybe Tim can call into my podcast one of these times and give me some hot takes.
Yeah, or maybe Tim has called you and you just thought they were real phone calls.
Well, the thing is I've never received a single phone call, so that's how that breaks down right now.
Oh.
Not very popular. I have 5 listeners.
Well, the best thing is when you're expecting a prank, then the prank really works. So
it's
on Tuesday, I will prank you, but make sure you don't answer so I can leave a message and do it right.
Okay, can you send me a calendar invite?
Yes.
Okay, great. It's so wonderful to have you all here. You know what I forgot to do as we went around was to ask you guys about your Bachelor journey. So maybe one at a time you can explain to me how much you've seen the show over the years and what your journey has been with The Bachelor. We'll start with you, Andrew.
Well, I watched my very first episode of The Bachelor today, a couple of hours ago.
Wow.
First, I watched a few episodes of MILF Island. Turns out I was watching the wrong show. And then I watched 1 episode of The Bachelor. So this is it. This is all I know. Everything that I know about The Bachelor, I learned from today's episode.
Wow. This is really exciting. I love that. What about you, Genevieve?
I had a little more experience. I was just out of college when the first season aired, and it was such a novel concept that my friends and I watched the Alex season. And then I think I also watched the first season of The Bachelorette with Trista. And then after that, 20 years went by and I haven't watched any of it since until preparing for this show. I did watch not just the episode we're talking about today, but the 2 previous, so that I would know who I was rooting for going into this episode.
Nice. That is a pro move. I love that. What about you, Nikki?
I was a Bachelor virgin until this afternoon. I had never seen an episode of The Bachelor. I had seen some of the knockoff versions. I watched Real Chance at Love, Flavor Flav,
Yeah.
Rock of Love, pretty
Yeah.
much all the VH1 versions.
Yeah.
So I'm no stranger to, people trying to find love on television, in front of a live studio audience. But The Bachelor, it's very classy compared to those other ones. So,
Only by a hair. This hair.
The
There's
Bachelor
less-
likes to try to maintain the tissue thin fiction that it's
Yeah.
that it's really about creating a relationship and not just fame whoring.
and there's less tongue kissing.
Which is
Oh man.
yeah, I want to talk about some kissing. So let's get into this because I have some thoughts on some
This-
kisses that I
This
saw.
is when a head gets close.
Yeah.
This is him.
The kissing techniques have been really widely panned this season.
Yeah.
It's been pretty fun. Before we get into the episode and everything that happened on this week, we really want to turn to some current events really quick because, man, The Bachelor has been in the news all week, especially Chris Harrison, kind of showing his true colors, defending some racist actions of one of the contestants, which Rachel Kirkconnell, she is one of the final 4. And it's widely believed that she's probably going to win, which is why
Yeah.
Chris is defending her so fiercely. So this, I mean, we're not going to get crazy into the weeds with this, but you guys were made aware of this story. Did you guys have any thoughts or takes on, just the Chris Harrison of it all?
Chris Harrison should absolutely have known better. It's by now how was he not? I've been in PR most of my career. How was he not, and he made these comments on a podcast with Rachel Lindsay, I think.
Rachel Lindsay, who was the first Black Bachelorette.
Right. And she has a Bachelor podcast. She had Chris Harrison on, and he was talking some mess about how he's not the woke police, and way back in the days of yore of 2018. We didn't know better than to go to plantation themed balls and weddings. Yes, we did actually.
Yes, we did.
It was not complicated.
And they were banned. They were banned at that time. So these were people that were doing it after they had been banned. And 2018 was not that long ago, Chris Harrison.
It wasn't that long ago. How did he not have a better answer for this question and for this area of discussion? He wasn't on the hot seat. All he had to say was, yeah, I disagree. I don't think people should do that. He didn't have to wade into how 3 years ago this was a totally uncharted piece of territory. It was so absurd.
Yeah,
he seems, he has always seemed like kind of an idiot, but his PR people really must be idiots.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? How do you guys think this will play out? Because it's interesting and I'm not trying to defend him in any way. I'm just asking because I'm new to this world. If the Bachelor does end up choosing Rachel, the person who actually did the actions that he was just reacting to, how will that play out? And, I'm so ignorant. I was assuming that this was all sort of going on in real time, that they were releasing these episodes, but still recording them. And Genevieve set me straight on that. But if the train has already left the station and the Bachelor does choose Rachel, how do you think what will be the reaction, or will the network or the show do anything or address it in any way? In a certain way, it sort of seems like the host is now the face of this controversy when he's not the one who went to the parties. And again, I'm not condoning what he said. It's just an interesting conundrum.
Yeah, so whenever controversial stuff happens like this towards the end of a season, possibly about a winner, usually what ends up happening is if it blows up big enough, they will address it on the final specials, like after the final rose or whichever one they haven't filmed yet. They will, in front of a studio audience normally, probably not right now, but sit down with the people involved and get all their thoughts and try to tie it into what's happening on the show. I'm not sure if that's going to happen right now, this time. Um, it's odd because Chris Harrison is at the center of it this time. And he is the executive producer of the show still. So I don't know if he's going to make that choice to put it on the air. My general feeling from Chris Harrison is that he doesn't want to have anything to do with this conversation. When he went on to Extra to talk to Rachel Lindsay, he was on there to promote a new liquor brand or something that he was launching. And I don't think he had any idea that she was going to ask him about that, which is why he looks like he was just caught with his pants down. And I've seen him be defensive before, but the only thing we've ever seen Chris Harrison be that defensive of before this is just in big quotes, the process of The Bachelor. He's always defending the process. He's always like, this works. People find love this way. And everyone in the world is like, this is a crazy idea and it's really stupid. And why are 25 people trying to marry one person? It's like, buys into it that he's always constantly defending the process. But yeah, this is him, trying to defend whatever. I don't even know what he's trying to defend. He's just apparently just doesn't like woke things.
I think he's on the record. He wants to defund the woke police. I believe he has a bumper sticker to that effect too. So that did not go well.
Yeah, I'll bet he totally does. I mean, he did. He could always retire and write some more erotica. Last season, we got to be subjected to some of Chris Harrison's erotica writing, so maybe that's in his future, And if The Bachelor needs a new host, guess what? I'm available, and if you want to make a show out of it, you can make a reality-themed show about finding the new host of The Bachelor, and everyone would watch that. So you should just do that.
This is just a content mill.
Yeah.
Get rid of Chris Harrison. You ginned up 10 new shows.
Yep.
Chris Harrison, the later years.
This is my audition for Chris Harrison's role. You ready? Ladies, Matt, this is the final rose. Is that pretty
That's
good?
exactly it.
That was
it.
it.
Nailed it.
Yeah. I like it when he says, take a moment, say your goodbyes.
Yeah. Ugh. Just anyone can do it.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. Okay, so all that aside, let's get into this show. Normally, before I go through, the scene by scene action, I'd like to just get some overall thoughts from you guys. So if you want to go around, starting with you, Nikki, what were some overall thoughts you had about watching this in your very first episode of The Bachelor?
Well, I want to know what I got it from the previews at the end, but I kept hearing about like Hometown Square or it's reminded me of like a land in Six Flags. I kept hearing a lot about hometown.
Yeah.
I think they dropped the phrase hometown probably every 20 seconds.
Yep.
So we're really gearing up for hometown. And I have a feeling that hometown, they're going to drop some sort of bombshell moment in hometown. So my big takeaway is, what is hometown?
Oh, yeah.
And what's going to happen at hometown, and then what's going to be the fallout from hometown. This is actually all leading up to hometown. And so I'm very excited. I'm interested. My curiosity is piqued. And also, I still can't remember anybody's names, but the one with the blonde hair, when she dumped the dumpy,
Yeah.
I thought that was a great power move.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that. I didn't know it could go both ways. So, overall, I was entertained. I was delighted. I was inspired. I Googled what is the age limit
Yeah.
to audition. You just have to be over 21. There's no cap.
There is no
So-
cap? I thought there was a cap.
I didn't see a cap.
I
I did
think
see that they're
I think it's a
auditioning for
de facto
seniors.
cap.
I mean, it's relative.
Considering that most of these women are like under 25,
Yeah.
Well,
I
so
think
the
there's a de
last
facto cap.
season we had Claire Crowley as the initial Bachelorette. She had been on some previous seasons, and they brought her back to have her own season, and she's 39. And a lot was made of the fact that she was the oldest Bachelorette ever, and they made her sound so ancient. And there was one guy on the show that got kicked off because he just kept calling her old. That was kind of cool and refreshing to see some older people, because most of the time this show is like 21, 22, 23-year-olds trying to navigate the idea of marriage, which is
Like the girl who dumped him, who was young, and she said something like, I want to travel, I want to finish my college years, I want to start a career, I want to write a book, I want to, and then she's like, and I don't know, like, I don't think I want to have a baby till I'm at least like
Yes.
25. Like, it's so old.
Yeah.
It's like, how old is she? Is she
so
13?
young.
yes,
They are so
She's
young.
21.
Rachel, the one who I think is probably the presumptive winner, which I'm super bummed about. She at one point said to Matt, "I've been waiting my whole life to find a love like this," and I'm like, "Your whole life? You're 23."
I know those
Yeah.
statements are so hilarious to me.
Been waiting my whole life for senior prom.
Yeah, I mean that was just a few years ago.
Yeah.
That was a recent memory for her.
Yeah.
She is Cynthia Rowley's daughter, so she is a socialite. That girl, so traveling the world and writing books like that. That is probably what she'll end up doing.
Yeah.
Andrew, what about your thoughts overall of your first episode
Well,
of The Bachelor?
I have so many thoughts. I feel like you need to reel me in, because if you just ask me a broad question like that, I will never shut up about this. I have a lot of thoughts. First of all,
Okay, give me like two or
Okay.
three thoughts.
I'd like to be on The Bachelor next year. No, that's not actually one of my thoughts.
Okay.
That didn't count towards the limit. I will say I was impressed because I've never seen an episode of this show that's been going on for more than 25 years now. And I also just don't even know much about it. Like, I really didn't. I mean, I guess it's all right there in the name, but I asked somebody at work to give me a primer on this, and she wrote back a paragraph that was dense with words, and none of them made any sense to me. I was like, I'm never going to get this show. I can't just jump into the middle of a season of a show I've never seen and get it. And I will say, I am impressed. Within 2 minutes, I had some solid opinions. I had some solid opinions about Matt's behavior towards Piper. When Heather just comes strolling in there, I'm like, what? You're treating Piper that way? I'm immediately team Piper. By the end of the show, spoiler alert, I guess that doesn't apply to this podcast, Piper's gone. I think he's got terrible taste in women. That's another takeaway. And I guess I will say that it was the show was more attainable than I thought it was going to be. And I did get sucked in pretty
Yes.
quickly. But I do think that the wrong people are leaving the show. I don't know why. I don't know any of the people who are left. They're the least interesting people.
Well, yeah, and I think it's tough with just one episode to capture the personalities of everyone when they don't have that
True.
spotlight on them. But I mean, I agree though. It is a very accessible show that will suck you in, and you don't know what your name is by the end of it, because you're like, "Where's my rose?"
Right.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, Genevieve, what about your overall thoughts?
Well, I have to say, I thought the move of having Heather come in and try to be a spoiler in week 6 was inspired, because even as I could see the machinery working and the fakeness of Chris Harrison being like, Heather, what are you doing here? And, her like all the fakeness of it, and her coming in, and it was, even as you could see the mechanics and see the orchestration of it, it was so effective in doing two things. It bonded the women together, common enemy. So suddenly they're not just, you're rooting for them as a team, they're rooting for each other because they have this common enemy. They put her in the fuggliest dress, so she's really the bad one.
A white dress.
A white dress, but made out of, I want to say beads.
Bees?
Beads.
Beads.
Bumblebees.
Bees. Bees?
So they put her in this fugly white dress, which is like just an absolute fuck you to everybody. And then, but this is smart. So we're rooting for the women, and then Matt gets the total hero edit by kicking her to the curb immediately and doing the whole apology. And when the women were like, "That was super hot," I was like, I hate to say it, but it was super hot.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, like, I hate getting sucked in because I can see the mechanics, and yet that was so effective that it works even when you can see the mechanics.
But how does Matt
Yeah.
interrupt? And I know I'm stuck on the first 30 seconds of the show. I realize. I promise you.
No, this is good. Let's actually just get into it. Let's start it out.
But
Let's
like,
do
I
it.
don't even know what's going on. But it's clear that he's having some sort of a one-on-one with Piper. Maybe it's a performance review. I don't know what's going on. But it's clear that he is.
In a way, it is.
In a one-on-one conversation, a meeting with romance involved, and somebody just walks in the door and he's just like, hold on a second, I'm going to deal with Heather. Like, that was so rude.
Well,
Yeah, but Heather rented a minivan to be there. And I really want to know, was that an upgrade that was offered, or was that the last car they had left?
Snacks. I loved what you guys said last week about that being a total Karen mobile.
Yeah, totally. And like, so much was made of the fact that it was a minivan, and I thought it was so funny when Matt turned to Heather at one point and goes, "I know you rented a minivan to be here." And I was like, what
Those
does
aren't
that
cheap. They go
mean?
through a lot of gas. The gas on those things.
Maybe that's
adds
it.
up.
Maybe it's just that she had to probably pay for a lot of money in gas, as well as the red eye, which I am so unclear about that timeline of when she packed her bags, how long she had to quarantine. I want a Heather timeline
And
right
how long?
now. Yeah, so this is how the show starts, and we can just kind of get into it. Is that we're picking up this Heather storyline. Matt, it's a group date cocktail party, I think, and so he's talking to Piper. He did already have a one-on-one with Piper that week, so when she kind of went off in a huff and said, "I waited all week to have time with him," I was a little bit like, no, you didn't, but that's okay. I think that she was pretty triggered by being interrupted by a pretty blonde white girl and kind of being cast aside. From what I understand, that is what she had to say about that. And yeah, I mean, it was just too late for Heather to come in on week 6 or 7. And I don't know if she planned to time it that way. And I don't know if she tried to meet him before the show, but she could have. And it was weird that she waited until the show was already underway to try to get into the process. But it was just too late. I wonder if she had showed up on week 1 or 2, if he would have brought her in. But at this point, we'll never know.
Can I ask a question? Because the one thing that this show did, and I'll talk about some other examples later, but one thing the show did that surprised me was I went into this very cynically, right? I'm looking for the strings, the puppeteer strings, which are very obvious, but I kept on thinking, oh, I got you, show. Here's where you're lying to me. And one of the things where I thought I caught a lie was she walks into the room and Matt's like, "Heather?" And then a couple of minutes later, he's like, "I've never met her before." I'm like, "Gotcha, show. You must have, because you knew it was Heather." But then it occurred to me, he knows who Heather is because of other seasons. Is that
Yeah.
reality?
So yeah, long story short, she is best friends with. She was on a previous season, and is best friends with someone he's very good friends with. So he knew of her. And he knew what she looked like, and maybe even was maybe they were trying to set him up with her before. Like, he seemed to be a little bit knowing. But it was so interesting when she was trying to go through her rationale for showing up. She's like, "I learned about you, and I learned about your heart." And this, it's like, what did you learn about his heart, ma'am? I'd like to know.
I looked for, there are so many sayings like that in the show. I thought for sure, I literally, if you go back and you look at my Google search history today, you will see that I was looking for the Bachelor phrase generator.
Oh,
I
yeah.
cannot believe I couldn't find one.
Okay, well, I can tell you, walls up, walls down, vulnerable, journey, knowing your heart. Can I steal you for a second? So the interrupting, Andrew, is part of the show. Like
Yeah.
they do these cocktail parties, and you're talking to him up until someone walks up to you and says, "Hey, can I steal him for a second?" And then they go off. So it's very much in the Bachelor fabric that somebody would interrupt your moment and then
Somehow, can I steal you for a second is bulletproof because no one ever goes, no, I'm talking here.
a
Like-
couple times they were like, "Actually, I want 5 more minutes," or like they will push back every once in a while. But yeah, for the
Good.
most part, that's it. You know, you're like, "Oh, I guess my time's up."
I thought I caught the show in a lie when during the drift, the
Yes.
car driving with the drifting, because the way they edit it, it's obviously not him driving, but the edit is such that it looks like he steps out of the car after the initial stunt driving.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, show, are you really gonna try to pass this off as him doing the driving? And then he immediately cops to it and says, that wasn't me driving. But if she's standing there and she saw the car come to a stop, that was for the audience because she saw whoever the driver was get out of the driver's seat.
Yeah.
I have a theory.
Go.
Let's hear it.
I think, because that's the other example that I was thinking of, Genevieve.
We have not pre-discussed this, by the way.
No, we haven't talked about anything. But I think go back to the tape and tell me I'm wrong about this, but I think when we see the actual stunt driver drifting around and throwing up the smoke from the tires and everything, the car then goes behind a big wall of tires that's like on the course. And I think they might have tried to do a switcheroo
They
back
switch
there.
him out. Yeah, that's what they did.
Interesting. But then why do they hide who steps out of the driver's seat? Because the camera doesn't show you who that is. They just show a man's leg getting out.
Because it's sexy to start from the leg up.
Yeah, the ABC audience just wants to see legs coming out of cars. That's just it's a test audience thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so after this whole Heather thing, yes, he sends her home, and that seems to make some women happy. Then we're going into this first rose ceremony, which we see Serena and Chelsea go home. Serena C, I believe, and Chelsea go home. I was bummed to see Chelsea go, but it didn't surprise me.
Yeah, she had no time.
She's too cool for him anyway, but I really liked how she left. I liked that she said, you know, she hugged him and she said, "You're amazing." And she walked out and said, "I was really sad to leave Matt." And I was like, that's the way you do it. You know, it's like when people throw little tantrums afterwards, I'm like, and it's just an ego response. I tend to not really like them as much. But Chelsea, she remained cool all the way up until the end. So I was sad to see her go, but I'm sure she's going to be on to some great things.
Can you
She
give me
looked
any?
amazing walking out of that mansion.
I mean, she's a runway model.
I mean, she's a
and
runway model, but her clothes. Usually the people, the women who get sent home, you can tell. The show telegraphs, I think, who it's going to be by how bad their dresses are. Like, I think Katie's dress was really terrible. That kind of orange one strap thing. And of course, we can't forget Victoria from previous weeks with the bra straps. But like, I thought Chelsea's dress looked amazing. She rocked it because she's a runway model, and she walked out of there like she was on a catwalk. She looked fantastic.
She's like, well, I might as well show them what I got.
Is there any insight as to why what happened in previous episodes? I don't know if I'm breaking the rules of your podcast.
No.
I apologize.
There's
But
no rules.
not only was she just stunning, and also in the little bit I saw of her on the show, she seemed to be very down to earth and interesting and human. Like, what didn't work there?
I mean, I think with Matt, so the thing about Matt, and this is my overriding thoughts about Matt in general, is that he is not very experienced in relationships. He has previously said that he's never been in love and that his longest relationship was maybe 4 months. So it's a really great idea to try to get married for him right now. This is going to work out really well,
Yes.
especially someone who he's barely met. So to me, I sort of feel like he's looking for some, I don't know. I don't know if he knows what he really wants in a relationship because he just hasn't had that experience to know what type of woman that he really wants to be with. And he might have I think he has a lot of insecurity. So I think he kind of goes towards the women that make him feel really reassured, with the exception of Serena P. And we'll get to her later. I don't know. I guess that's sort of my thought on Matt James. I just don't think that he has a lot of experience. And so sometimes he's sending people home that would be amazing, but I don't know if he's ready for that, you know?
It makes sense. Like if he's never really been in love before, like starting in a Disneyland house with Disneyland princesses and beautiful bumblebee gowns. And, you know, it makes sense because he's going to be prepared for like when they run out of quarters and it's cold out and you don't have any gas and who's going to go get the quarters. And that's, you know, that's love. And so I think that he's going to be prepared to deal with conflict and daily monopolies.
Oh,
And he's going to monopolize. And I think, I think that, you know, I think that that would be a better show. Not, you didn't ask me that.
Nikki,
but
that's
I think high stress, putting together IKEA furniture, you know,
that should be a date.
Yeah.
that should be a date. That should be a date. It's like, how do you deal under stress? How do you deal when, you know, well, I guess they are going to go see families. So maybe that'll be more interest. Not that it wasn't interesting.
That's why the scenes where the women are sitting around the house, the chateau or whatever, and they have their glasses on and they're wearing their sweatpants and they're not made up, you know, to the nines, and they don't like, their hair isn't perfectly done and they don't have like so much makeup on. I always think like, why doesn't the show ever put him in the room with them like this? Like even when they go to the farm or whatever, like, you know, some allegedly sort of like, or bowling or like low pressure date or sort of like dress down date. It's everybody's still completely made up. Everyone still looks absolutely at their best.
No one gets stomach cramps.
No one ever gets stomach cramps. And I think it would be nice to see just a moment. I mean, like one of the nicest moments in this week's episode is after the credits have rolled, when they're like fooling around after the rose ceremony and Michelle starts doing push-ups, and they like see for just a second that there is a human being under there who has a sense of humor and it can be a little silly.
And this is what I'm hoping.
I like Michelle.
Yeah, the same. I love Michelle. And this is sort of what I'm hoping gets ushered out with maybe the Chris Harrison era of The Bachelor, is this like facade of like perfection and this like, we don't really joke around unless it's like in this weird like sanctioned way. Like I love the bloopers and that side of those characters, I mean, they're people. That side of those people just doesn't come out in the show proper, and it would be a much better show and more fun show to watch if it was, I think.
The rule should be no makeup artists, no wardrobe, no hair. And
well, you know,
I do love the clothes.
A lot of these women are, you know, Instagram influencers coming in. Like it used to be that you'd be on the show and then maybe become an influencer based on your fame and success from the show, but now they're coming in as influencers. They already have, you know, brands and stuff giving them free products, and they already know how to beat their face into oblivion. So it's just a new generation, you know what I mean?
Has that changed over the course of the 25 years? Just like the caliber of, because when you see everybody's teeth are perfect. Everybody's hair is like to the side. Yeah,
if you watch early seasons of The Bachelor, people look very normal. They look very like people you would see on the street. They're not these like 10s and 11s that you have right now. It's like impossibly hot people are on this show now.
Well, these women were raised on The Bachelor.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. It's so weird. It was never, I mean, I think they were like born when it came out. So, this whole business of Abigail and Jasenia being the only two that didn't have a one-on-one, I just really hate what happened to Abigail this season. She was such a fan favorite from the get-go. And Matt, I really hated the way he dealt with Abigail. He gave her the first impression rose, which on most seasons means that's someone that he really, really, really has his eye on. And he did that and then kind of never spoke to her again. And every week she waited, and every week she was told to be patient, and every week went by, and she was the only woman on the show who never got a one-on-one date. And I thought that that was so crummy. And the way that he broke up with her this episode was just so crummy. What did you guys think of Matt and Abigail?
I mean, the way he justified it made it sound even worse because he's like, I mean, I knew I had you in the bag, so I just kind of put you on the back burner for a while, and then before I knew it, I forgot about you. Like,
Yeah,
at least he
exactly.
was honest, but it was kind of brutal.
Yeah, to
Yeah,
me, that was the most brutal. It was so brutal.
It was brutal, and it was not a real endorsement of the process, which everybody's always very eager to tell you is a great process, and you got to go through the process. But like, yeah, I agree that it was just, you know, he talked he said something about like good things come to those who wait, and I really believe that. And like, I don't think you do, dude.
Yeah. Andrew, any thoughts about that?
I have thoughts that I'm reevaluating right now.
Mm.
And I I don't know how much of this is due to the fact that I had no context for her or the relationship, although neither did Nikki. So now I'm worried that I'm just sexist. But, I'm trying to throw myself into the world of the show and judge these people in the way that we're supposed to be judging them as like I'm being so damn careful here. Oh my God. But like, I feel like I wouldn't judge any of these people the way they want us to judge them as viewers of the show anyway, but I'm getting into it. And I just am looking at the way that the other women are presenting themselves. And from the get-go with Abigail, I'm seeing somebody who is constantly talking about how she's getting a raw deal. Then when she finally does get the first that I have seen sit down with him, she's right out of the box of just kind of like on the edge of tears and talking about how she feel like she's not getting a good deal. And I'm like, well, I guess that's not super attractive. So sorry. I mean, that's kind of an asshole thing to say, but
No, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
and I think that she has kind of fallen into that trap in the past of wanting to be honest and vulnerable with him, but what she has to say is a very kind of insecure, kind of like a bummer of a message. And he didn't really get to see the fun side of her as much when they were one-on-one. And I think that could have hurt her because that wasn't the first time that she kind of came to him a little bit tearful about her journey,
I'm with you that Matt seems like he needs a lot of validation and a pretty sunny kind of disposition and I think that is a sign of maybe immaturity.
Yeah.
That's why I cracked. I don't want to get ahead of us here, but it made me laugh so hard when like the substantive conflict that was presented was like, I didn't enjoy tantric yoga, and it's like, thank you for being so honest with me, but there's a very thank you for being willing to challenge me by saying you don't like vanilla and you like you prefer chocolate to vanilla. It's like you just like two different things. It's you're not talking about raising your kids in a different faith tradition.
Yeah. This is, these are small disagreements to be having, but he seems very challenged and, turned on by that in a way.
But it was such a contained conflict. That was what I thought was so hilarious about it.
Yeah.
They can get through real stuff.
I really appreciated those boundaries. I just will say that, like, as somebody who, like, because of being a super picky eater and just being a socially awkward guy, I am constantly trying to explain to people, like, no, I'm not doing karaoke because I'm scared to do it around you. I just really don't want to do it. And I'm constantly having to set up boundaries and just like stick by them. And I wasn't expecting anybody on this show or any of the women on the show to set up those kind of boundaries. So I was kind of like, yeah, you go.
Yeah, I loved it. Let's talk about Serena's one-on-one. So this was her second one-on-one, which is why it was such a blow to Abigail. So you would expect him to go through all the women at least once before he doubled back and did a second one-on-one with one of the women when she's been waiting this whole time. But he didn't. He because on their first one-on-one, Serena only got to a place where she said, "I'm falling into like with you." She's one of the women that has held her feelings more close to the vest, and that seems to draw him in, actually. And I think that's why she got that second one-on-one. He wanted to know that they weren't just friends. So he plans this date. I mean, you know, I know he has at least a hand in it. I don't know how much of a hand he has in planning this, but I'm sure if he thought it was a terrible idea, he would have shot it down, but he loved this date. And they always do these dates, these tantric yoga dates where you have to, like, you know, strip down into yoga clothes and put your groins together and stare into each other's eyes. We see this every single season. And and I was so completely happy that Serena came out saying that she hated it. And I loved the look on her face when he's trying to stare at her, but also their experiences being so different. And it really said a lot to me when he confessed to Serena that one of the things he loved about it so much was that they made eye contact for a prolonged period of time, and he had never done that with a person before. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, he seems like he's ready for a walk down the aisle.
Apparently, no one's ever told him the truth before either, because
Yeah.
just saying I didn't like yoga was like shocking, like that somebody said something like you were saying, Genevieve, so basic or banal.
Well, like the constant validation that
Yeah.
he is the yes manning that is happening on this show, and the way, I mean, it's how it's structured is for them to compete, and the easiest way to compete is to always be validating the Bachelor. I think is so. I mean, look at the numbers. I don't know about you guys. I went back and looked at all the seasons and which ones ended in proposals, which is a minority of seasons, by the way. It's like 6 or 7 out of the 22 or 25 seasons. And of those 6 or 7, I think 1, maybe 2 are still in a relationship.
Yeah. It's different for the Bachelorette, right?
Yes, that has a better record.
Yeah.
I didn't know this could end with nobody. It can end with a hung jury?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Can end with a get the fuck out.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, I know this sounds ridiculous. Like, I went into this, it was such a low bar, but I do feel like I actually am gaining more and more respect. Like, I'm glad to know that. I'm glad that Serena said, yeah, that sucked, because that seemed like it sucked to me too. Like, I would really, I appreciate these. And like, there's something like, and it's so hard for me to judge this show, because I'm going to go out on a limb here and you guys tell me if I'm wrong. Like, I'm not a woman, so I shouldn't be speaking to this, but I don't feel like this show is great for women empowerment, right? Like, it just doesn't seem like that's like what the goal of this show is. You have a bunch of women who are just trying to do whatever they can, obviously, to win this guy over. But like, he even takes it a step further and says, the woman I want has to go even further, like even further than like being on the show and wearing a ball gown all the time, so far as I can tell. Like, she has to get on a red eye and into a minivan to impress me. Or you have to, like, he even said, like, I need really big gestures that you're into this. Where I'm like, it's already a big gesture that they're there, dude.
Yeah.
Like, one of them, Brie quit her job, which, by the way, that was a total power move, because how can he send her home now?
But like, what do you guys think about Brie quitting her job? Like,
I thought she's setting a bad precedent.
I mean, I think from what I understand, she works at like either Facebook or Instagram, some social media company, and it might be the type of thing where she knows she can get another job pretty easily, and maybe she didn't like her job that much. So, but when she kind of says that her job was like a dream, because it's like, yeah, if you missed her backstory, which you probably did, because I think it was one of the first episodes of this season, her mom had her at 13 and was a single mom. And so she's grown up with a very, very young mother, and, you know, they've been taking care of each other. And so for her to get like this job was a really, really big deal for her. And yeah, I was really sad when she said she had resigned from her job. I was like, I really wish that she didn't have to do that.
And he
I
didn't
also
actually seem
wondered.
that impressed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nikki.
Oh no, I was just gonna say he didn't seem like that blown away. He was like, "Cool, thanks."
He didn't give her the rose.
No.
No.
Yeah. And honestly, and again, I was only judged that I feel like I'm coming off so male here, but I was judging this just based on, you know, how he might react. And I actually thought, ooh, that's a bad strategy. You're coming in here. Like, that's a lot of pressure. Like, traditionally speaking, like somebody be like, hey, I love you. And not only that, but things are tough. We're in the middle of a global pandemic, but I quit my job for you. Like, that would scare me. Like,
I
that's
know.
not a turn on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought that was, I wouldn't know how to react to that either, to be honest. And they did have a pretty strong connection. So hopefully, I mean, he seems to really like her. So hopefully she didn't completely blow up her life. But yeah, that, I mean, in this whole group date, that's where we lose Abigail and, some other importance. And then Kit kind of rolls out. Is that when Kit rolls out her 5-year plan, or is that later on when she
No,
goes
that
to
was
his
on the
house?
group date.
Yeah. So he gives the group date rose to Rachel, which kind of, everyone who's in the house must know that she's the front runner. She keeps getting these special dates, and she gets this private concert with Aloe Black, which I mean,
love it. I don't know if this is actually how it works, but the way it was staged made it look as if they literally just walked out of the building that all the other women were in and then had a private concert like
They did.
within earshot.
Yes.
That's
And
a real big fuck you.
It's so it's so crazy. And also, like, the last episode, they had a very shitty band called Temecula Road play. And this week, like, Aloe Black's at least an artist that I've heard of, and he's very talented. And it's the first person that I've actually recognized the name of the artist in a very long time on this show. And so to me, it just had such like front runner vibes. They're like, well, we're gonna give her the money the artist we spent the big money on,
The way they were dancing though, it made me remember like Chris Anson in 6th grade at the Valentine's dance, like this like hug dance thing where you do this. And I think I think again it like speaks to maybe how new he is to dating and
Yeah.
being with girls physically in their space, because that, and with the way he was doing yoga, I was surprised that he enjoyed it, and I was surprised that he enjoyed dancing like that. But yeah, it almost made me feel bad for him, because it was just so, he just seemed so uncomfortable and like, this is dancing, but yet they're like, oh, it's so romantic. And it gave me like that bad feeling of like when a boy liked you too much and he would be like, I just wish you could see how beautiful you are through my eyes. And you're just like,
I quit study hall for you.
Exactly.
Or like they're just a really bad kiss. I just get the sense that
Yeah.
Matt is a really bad kisser because
Oh my God.
time
I've been
he
waiting
kisses
to get to this.
There was a
Yes.
spit trail on one of them.
Ugh.
He and Kit in particular had the world's least chemistry. It was like watching two mailboxes make out. I mean, it was really bad. Like, I couldn't believe that
That's my favorite porn subgenre.
Oh God. I mean, just like banging together, just not good.
I mean, yeah, So yeah, after he gives the group date rose to Rachel, Kit is triggered to go over to his house that night, apartment, whatever, the place he's staying. And this is where she spells out her 5-year plan. They have this moment, and I mean, I never saw it with Kit. She's so young and
Mhm.
she's so rich, and I just don't know what she's doing on this show because she's also incredibly inexperienced in relationships, but maybe that means that they're a good match in a way. They both live in New York. They're both very kind of inexperienced, but I just never saw it with them. And I was kind of, she self-eliminates, and I thought that was kind of a baller move on her part because she's like, no.
I think she had a moment of clarity that she didn't want to make out with this dude for the rest of her life.
I think also she didn't want to be rejected. She didn't want to have that moment of not getting a rose at a rose ceremony and having to say her goodbye, just like everyone else. I think she wanted to go out on her own terms. And it's a classy move. I'm into it.
I was so into it. I think it was a strong move. Very smart.
I was impressed.
Yeah.
I thought I may have seen actual misty eyes in his eyes, like real. I saw little bits of feelings, like tears.
I
And I
think
don't
he
think that
really-
was acting. I think he was shocked. I think he was like, wait, somebody's saying no to me?
I think she might actually have gotten a rose. I think she just like had a moment of clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, I'm not introducing you to my famous mother.
Yeah.
I was very confused about the roses in that scene that you guys are calling the group date that happened, I don't know, like about the middle of the show, because
Mhm.
I had only seen the rose ceremony I'm like AI, right? I'm learning as I go. And I'd only seen the first rose ceremony of the show. So I thought like whoever doesn't get a rose is out of there.
Mhm.
And then he's like, I only have one rose to give away. And I'm like, but there's like 5 people in the room. This is going to be a massacre. And he gives like one rose away. And I wrote down in my notes, I said, Piper's out. Fuck this. And then the show goes on, and then they're all still hanging around. I'm like, you guys got to get out of there, man. He didn't give you a rose. And then as the show goes on, I realize, oh, it's about accumulation of roses. It's not just in the moment. You can just like get rid of everybody by not giving them a rose.
So the roses, I think, are by the week. And so you can get one on a one-on-one date. He can hand it to you, and that means you go to the next week. You can get it on a group date. He gives it to one person that, really impressed him on a group date. Or you can get one at a rose ceremony. And they all mean the same thing, that you go to the next week. And
Okay.
But you don't get, it's not like minutes on a cell phone. You don't get to hold it over
They
till
don't
next
roll
week.
over.
I
Yeah,
Yeah,
see.
there's
And
no rollover roses. Although
Can
that
you-
would be an interesting twist.
Can you get more than one rose per week? I feel like some of
Yeah.
these women, oh, you can't. You
Yeah.
can't. Oh, okay.
The rose ceremony was like your last chance. Is
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
okay. That's why the music goes do 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 do.
yeah,
Really
exactly.
high.
Exactly.
It's very tense.
Oh, yeah.
Very
I mean,
tense.
I think people's heads are going to explode sometimes in those rose ceremonies.
Yeah.
Okay, so so Rachel gets the group date rose, Kit self-eliminates, and then we find out that Jasenia got the one-on-one. Abigail left when she found that out, and to be honest with you, I was kind of like, I don't want to watch a date with Matt and Jasenia. I know he's not going to bring her to hometowns.
Yeah.
I like, they've never had a one-on-one. They don't have any chemistry or anything. Like, I just kind of didn't want to sit through that date. I was kind of annoyed to watch it. I was like, cool, they're going to drive cars around. I know there's nothing there. I kind of wish in these moments that, like, they wouldn't make us sit through a date like that, but they did. I would have rather seen a date with Abigail. That would have been, even if he sent her home, I would have rather seen a date with Abigail because I would have wanted to see Abigail more. So yeah, no surprise that she goes home. Does anyone have any thoughts about the date with Jasenia other than the the race car trickery?
Well, I feel
Well-
like you're really glossing over the her attempted Tawny Katane
Yeah.
hood of the car move. That again, so awkward. What happened? Did the hood buckle underneath her a little bit? And she's like, oh, she even like said like, oh my gosh, nothing's going right, or another mistake, or we keep ruining this car, or something along those lines.
Yeah, she would definitely probably have to ask her mom who Tawny Katane is, which is
Yes.
pretty depressing.
I think Jasenia's been toast for several weeks. It's just been a dead woman walking because she's the last of the drama queens. So you, Nikki and Andrew, didn't like do all the pre-watching and homework that I did. But before this week, there was a lot of like infighting in the house. There was this whole drama-rama with like, they brought in some of the women later. So there was like new girls and old girls versus, I mean, it's all a way of course, like ginning up drama. But what it ended up creating was like all of this infighting in the house, and then various people going to sort of tattle to Matt about who was being a mean girl and who was creating drama and blah, blah, blah. And essentially, like in a biblical plague, they like wiped out all of the women who took part in any of the drama, whether they were tattling or being tattled upon. All of those drama queens have now, and Jasenia, I think, was the last one to go.
Yeah, it's true.
Is that right, Snacks?
Yeah, and we kind of also skipped over the part where the very last of the mean girl action happened when Heather was in there. Like that interaction with Heather was so uncomfortable. they were just like, why are you here?
Oh,
Go
Heather was
home.
okay. I'm still losing track of everybody.
Yeah,
That was
sorry.
Heather was the interloper.
okay.
I'm
Yeah,
jumping
they
all the
were
way back.
they were hurtful.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't hear you crying right now. Take that to the confessional. What did they say? I love
Yes.
that
I
line.
can't hear you
Yeah, she's
crying
like,
right now.
go into your interview.
I can't
read
hear
your
those
confessional."
tears.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
I
can't hear
loved
those
it.
tears.
Yes.
I want to use that. I mean, I don't know there's any circumstance
So
that
the
I can
next
use
time
that.
I'm crying about something, I know what
To
I'm gonna
get your way.
get back.
Yeah.
You guys should set up a confessional booth in your home and really, I think that'd be really funny if every time you had a fight, one of you went in there and like talked to the camera, like Andrew was being kind of a dick about the dishes. And I don't know. And then you guys play them for each other later.
I like it. Will you
Yeah.
produce it?
Yes, I will.
Great.
I was picturing a Catholic confessional booth and it was really weird. It was like Genevieve will go in there and Andrew will confess his sins and she'll prescribe how many Hail Marys.
I'll be the
I
priest.
thought that was more twisted.
Yeah.
I like the confession. You mean a video confession?
You know, I think, is that from the real world? Is that where I'm getting
Yeah.
that from? The confessional?
Yeah, confessional was the real world. They call it ITM on this show. It's in the moment. That's what they call those little cutaways. So yeah, that was some mean girl action that you guys got a little taste of this week. It's just everyone just being like, and Kit just being like, bitch, what are you doing here? It's like,
I know
whoa.
she said the B word. I couldn't
B?
believe it.
She dropped the B bomb. Okay, so Jasenia, she goes home at the end of her date. No surprise there. And then it's kind of down to who's going to be in the final hometowns. So hometowns normally are when Matt travels to each of the final four women's hometown, and the women get to plan the date. They take Matt to their favorite places. They do their favorite activities that are, like things that are indicative of where they live. Just get a taste of what their home life is like. And then they go and meet the families and they maybe have dinner with the families. And then the families each take turns pulling Matt aside and asking him questions. And then likewise, they do it with, whoever the woman is, she gets grilled by her parents and her family members too. So they each have to face their families to kind of say how they're feeling about the relationship and ask any questions. And I have to say, I'm so curious about what's going to happen with Rachel's family. That is something that I'm really on board to see. Piper doesn't make it through, and I am fine with that. I thought that I don't think that she's a bad person, but I do think she seemed a little bit, she just had really a lot of ego responses for me, and she just seemed to be really vindictive when things didn't go her way, and just the language she was using. She's like, it's a complete waste of my time, and I was totally invisible, and it was just kind of this all or nothing. And I just don't see that working for a guy like Matt. So I just didn't see the two of them ever getting along in a way that would be lasting. And yeah, when she left, she was pretty pissed off in her SUV.
Yeah, she didn't even give him a hug goodbye. She got in that car and she's like, close
Yeah.
the door.
Yeah, I just don't think that's Matt. I don't think could handle.
Can I offer a counterpoint about Piper?
Sure.
Which is, I think she made the fatal mistake of taking this seriously.
Yeah.
And I think her tears were very real. I mean, when Heather was doing her post-mort after she gets the boot, she tried to cry and it was cracking me up because she couldn't make actual tears. She could do this she could fake cry, like the emotion that you do when you cry, but obviously she couldn't generate any actual tears.
Yeah.
Piper was ugly crying and for real crying. And you're right, Nikki, she wasn't there to make nice and tell him how amazing he was. She was genuinely hurt. And say what you will about the process, she was actually trying, I think, to be there for it and to really see if it could work.
Yeah, I think it's true. I think she did genuinely want that to work. But you know, that's the mistake you make when you go on The Bachelor, everybody.
I gotta say, like, I went into this as just Team Piper only because, again, in the first 30 seconds, I saw her done dirty, and I didn't know that that is a typical thing that people are interrupting people all the time. So I'm just kind of like, that is the rudest thing I've ever seen, and I am ride or die for Piper. Like, and so I had hitched my wagon to her for the rest of the show. Although I also did not know about Chelsea until the rose ceremony. I was like, who is that and why is she leaving? That was the shocker to me. But I will say that I was surprised by Piper's reaction. And because when she said, like, she's the one, like you said, what a waste of time. I'm like, well, is it any of this a waste of time? Like, it's not a waste. Like, for a second, I'm like, wait, did you go into this for love? Like,
that's what I'm saying. Yes.
Right? And you think she did? She went into it really for love, not to advance her career.
Crazy though it may be, I think she was maybe the least cynical of the women.
That's so interesting.
She's cynical now.
But I
think now, yeah.
I think too, it's also weird to make the case that it would be a waste of time right now in a pandemic to be in a beautiful chateau in Pennsylvania. Right. Like, I would love to hang out at a chateau, you know, and wear nice dresses and stuff for a few weeks. That sounds fun. That's not a waste of time.
Yeah, I do yoga with Matt for that. Now, I don't know if it was Piper. No, I won't. I don't know if it was Piper who said this, but one of the people in their tearful SUV, and I think it was Piper, it like gave me a pang of something because she said, I'm not usually vulnerable. She said something along the lines of, I don't usually let my walls down, which is one of maybe your phrase that pays their snacks. But she's like, I don't usually do that. And then I did it, and now I'm hurt, and I've learned a lesson from that. And I felt like that was pretty relatable. Like, anybody who's ever kind of put themselves out there knows that feeling. Like, I'm never going to be vulnerable again.
Sure. I mean, for me, anytime there's a speech in the SUV, that little monologue as they're leaving, those are usually auditions to be on future seasons. Like, it's usually someone being like, someday I'll find love. Maybe it'll be soon, maybe it won't be, but someone's out there for me. And it's just like, hey, America, I want to be the next Bachelorette, is what that always sounds like to me. So I don't know.
So it sounds like she failed her audition. Because if she's shutting it down, I'm not open, I'm over this, I'm never going to put my heart on the line. Well, she's probably not going to be a contestant. Or would it be like,
she'll be on Bachelor in Paradise.
She's the great white whale.
Yeah.
So she'll be on
love for Piper.
She'll be on Bachelor in Paradise, and I think usually the bigger personalities end up there. So the people that are like the Victorias, they put them all on the beach, and they give them lots of alcohol, and they all get to date each other. It's not like one person. It's like a bunch of single people on a beach.
That sounds like my kind of beach.
Yeah, I might have to watch that this year.
I did.
Nikki froze.
Oh no.
That's it. You froze, and I thought you were just gonna like warp over to the Bachelor in Paradise beach.
I just left.
So this kind of brings us to the end of the episode. You know, we get our final four. We get Bree, Michelle, Rachel, and Serena. And these are the people that we're going to get their hometowns next week. And so because it's a pandemic, they won't be traveling to the hometowns. So what they do is they fly the families out and quarantine them for some period of time, and then set up dates around the, you know, Nemacolin campus to approximate hometown dates. So it's not quite the same, but it'll be that last season, Tayshia's season, they were all stuck in a La Quinta in Palm Desert in like 120-degree temperatures. And they tried doing hometowns there, and it was very, very sad. They like tried making like carnival games out of like bean bags, and they made like a paper car that was supposed to be like a New York taxi cab. And
no,
it was really, really, I felt so bad for production in a way, but it was also just so comical. It was like, I loved how low rent it was. Actually, I kind of love Bachelor on a budget. Like them having all the money to, like, Matt has a different car he's driving up every single time, and like this place is just like a palace. I kind of like it when they're really like bootstrapped a little bit.
Speaking of cars, I'm sorry. I have a question. I need to go back to that open course thing with the what kind of a car was that, Genevieve? You're good with cars.
It looked like a Charger, but they very carefully didn't show you what the car make and model was, or
Okay.
because they clearly didn't have a sponsorship deal.
Just
Because
get Saturn.
Peloton got
It's
a
a
very
Saturn.
prominent look.
I think it was a Yaris. But whatever it was, beautiful car. But then Matt starts crashing it into the boxes, which are clearly made of like plywood. They're not cardboard, they're plywood, and actually knocked the mirror off. Is that why those things were there? Are you supposed to drive into them? Like, who's running an operation where they just keep on breaking mirrors off of cars?
It's a racket.
I mean, this is a mystery. I don't think
Okay.
I have any idea.
All right. Okay.
That's why they couldn't get the sponsorship from Dodge, because they didn't want to show their mirrors breaking off.
Yeah, 'cause
Terrible
then,
mirrors.
They fall right off if you hit plywood.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, does anyone else have any closing thoughts about how the episode ended? Do you think you would watch another episode? Are you roped into the drama to see how Matt's season is going to conclude? So if you don't know the Bachelor season layout, what we're gonna get next week is the hometowns, like I said, and then we get fantasy suites, which is where they get to actually spend the night with Matt. That's the first time ever that they get to spend the night, and
Like
the cameras.
spend the night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
I was going to ask if they
That's-
humped.
they
Now,
do
is that
it.
down to Snacks? Is that down to 2 people or 3
It's
people
3.
for
It's
fantasy
3, yeah.
suite? Okay.
So one person after hometowns gets eliminated, and then it gets to 3. It's the final 3, and then it's the fantasy suites, and then it goes down to 2, and then the final episode will be 2 people. But between fantasy suites and that final episode, we get the Women Tell All episode, which is all the eliminated women come back and yell at each other and yell at Matt. And it's the most fun, and I really can't wait for this season's Women Tell All. And then, yeah, we get the finale, and then it's after the final rose, which is when, they talk to, like, a lot of stuff happens between the last episode and after the final rose, because this, like, that's like from where they recorded to now. And now is they have been able to watch every episode, because they got to a point in the season and they only knew their own journey. And then now they have watched everything that we have watched. They saw Matt with every single relationship. And sometimes that changes things at the very end. So, not that I'm trying to push you guys to watch the rest of the season, but I just wanted to lay that out for you as what's gonna be coming in the next few weeks. What do you guys think? Do you think you're gonna watch some more of this journey?
I'm probably gonna watch Hometowns. It's the
Yeah.
most drama-packed episode every season.
Yeah.
I'll probably watch Hometowns too, because I like that clip of the dad going, "Can you really know someone in a couple of weeks?" He's right.
I love the parents. It's actually so fun to watch the parents. Andrew?
Well, I was going to say no, but I didn't realize there's a chance that we might see them pretending to drive around in a tiny 2-dimensional cardboard car, like I did in my 3rd grade talent pageant. So that's kind of intriguing, but I doubt I will stick with it. I didn't even watch the next time on. I was pretty much out of there as soon as I could be. I mean, once Piper was gone, like what stakes do I have in here? But so no, I'm.
Do I need to watch out for you trying to get in touch with Piper?
No, we're good. But I mean, is there a chance that, so in the finale, Matt could proposed to Rachel, right?
Yes.
But then there's going to be an episode where everybody's caught up to real time, and then Matt's going to be like, "Oh, you're hella racist. I didn't know that." Can he then say, like, could there be a chance that he proposes and then rescinds his proposal? Because that would be something.
That stuff happens. And yeah, it's kind of, and actually the last many seasons, it's been a total mess what happens from the last episode to the now. Lots of drama happens. And yeah, I know all this Rachel stuff is probably going to come up in that last thing. At least it has to. There's no way it can't make national news and not get onto this show, I don't think. So I'm really looking forward to seeing
the bar for scandal on Bachelor is so I don't know if high or low is the right metric, but Andrew, you don't know this probably, but one of the previous Bachelors was like later accused of stalking and basically like abusing, like he put a tracker on the car of one of the woman that he proposed to. I mean, it was bad.
Goodness.
Yeah, or they have girlfriends or boyfriends, or they find out that they weren't single and they went on the show just for the clout, and it all falls apart later.
That's one of the problems with the pandemic, is I feel like if they could actually go to their hometowns, there's a chance that like Rachel would have taken him to like Stone Mountain or something in Georgia. Yeah. And then he's like, what's this General Lee riding off the mountain shit? Like, I'm out of here.
Cumming's not that far from Stone Mountain.
Yeah.
Or they could have gone through family photo albums of like, that's my antebellum party.
Right.
And then that could have been like a deal breaker right there.
I love photo albums. She's like 20. Here's my photo albums.
She would have photo albums.
I mean, but it's like getting back to that just a little bit. None of that was found on any of these other women. And it's not just because she's a front runner that he just happened to pick the one person on this show that has this history, which I just think is tragic and really sad. And so I'm really interested in seeing what happens with all of that.
Who are you rooting for? If you guys didn't know about the Rachel backstory just from watching the show, I mean, I think I'm especially talking to you, Snacks, because you watched the whole thing. Who are you rooting for amongst the women?
I do like a lot of his final four. I think Michelle is my favorite of the final four. She's the one who did the push-ups in the credit sequence. She's a school teacher who's also an athlete, and that really matches with him a lot, I think. And when they had their date, it was the most relaxed I had seen him. He seemed way more like a person and less like really just stiff like he normally is. So I'd say she's my top choice. I really do like Bree, even though she quit her job. I'm really excited to meet Bree's mom this week on the hometowns. That's going to be really exciting. And Serena, I just don't think she likes him enough, but I think she's great. And hopefully that's an easy elimination. And then it'll be, so I mean, I just think that Serena is probably the one that's going to end up getting eliminated out of those four. And then we'll see what happens from there.
I just had one thought, which was I just really would like to know how this impacts the contestants' future dates. Like, has the ante been upped so bad? How could anything compare to like a produced television date? Everything would be so disappointing after that. There's no tantric yoga. There's no skydiving.
It's like we had like Piper and Matt had their own carnival.
Yeah, now they're gonna have to go to a carnival in a parking lot, like in Plainfield.
There's gonna be other people there.
There's gonna be other people.
You have to wait in line.
They won't be at a chateau. Yeah, no, I agree with you. It is kind of strange, the idea that they are in this whirlwind, and normally this show, they're traveling to exotic locales and it's just extremely grandiose. And then when the show is over, they're like, oh, where are we going to have brunch? Like, and they don't have any of that. It goes from fantasy to suddenly you're crashed down to earth,
Monday. On the other hand, a few of these couples have made it work and they have a couple of kids. I mean, it's honestly shocking to me that it ever lasts.
Yeah.
So it could happen. I don't think it's going to happen this time, by the way.
But also, I kind of feel like, it could last, just in the sense that, who else is going to know what weirdness you experienced when you
Yeah.
did this? I mean, it's an interesting thing when you think of it that way. Like, that really would bond two people, because it must be the weirdest experience that you really can't express to people afterwards.
That's such a beautiful way to wrap up this conversation, but I'm going to do what I've been doing all show and go back to something that pisses me off that I need to get
Right,
off
yeah.
my chest, and you can
I love
just cut it all out. But if you're on a date with someone and there's a rose there, and this rose is really important to the future of the relationship, and you're going to decide not to give this person the rose, don't pick it up and
Don't
fondle it
dangle
in
it.
front of him. Don't dangle the son of a gun in front of him. Leave it on the table. He's torturing her on purpose.
Yeah.
Every
I have a
rose
rose.
has a
I have a
thorn,
rose.
Matt.
It's not for you. But
Is
this
it?
a
Oh,
rose.
maybe. Oh.
No. I felt the same thing, Andrew.
It's such a dick move. I'm sure producers told him to do it.
Yeah, that's all
Yep.
producer. I agree.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being on Buns and Roses. What is, well, definitely we want to tell people about your podcasts. Andrew, where should people find all of your podcasts?
Oh, wherever you find podcasts, I guess at the store.
Mm-hmm.
TBTL, Too Beautiful to Live. That's a daily podcast with me and Luke Burbank, and I'll let Genevieve talk about the podcast that we do together. And I also have that cleaning podcast called Spotless, which we release every other Monday. And again, you can find those. If you're listening to this, you know where we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew and I do After These Messages. It's our hot takes on commercial breaks. It's a weekly podcast. It drops every Tuesday, and come check it out.
Nikki, you have anything you want to throw our way?
You can find Andrew and me blading, well, on Fridays.
Oh, yeah.
So they don't need to know when we meet. No, I don't have anything other than just the typical pandemic advice. Stop it. Stop it. Just cut it out.
What things should people stop doing that you're seeing people doing all the time? Let's hear it.
Just stop it with the no mask wearing and the I don't feel like staying home. I'm bored.
Thank you guys so much. And to all of you out there, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review to Buns and Roses, and email me. My email is freesnacks@gmail.com. That's freesnax@gmail. And you can find me on social media @freesnacks. And until next time, keep your walls down, stay vulnerable, and enjoy the journey. Goodbye. Take me down to the rose ceremony, the fantasy suites, holy matrimony. Oh, won't you please?